Good morning. My name is Tom Nguyen, co-creator and founder of a staffing company named WinCorp Solutions. I will be your moderator today for the Corporate Diversity and Procurement panel. But before we start, please allow me to introduce the panelists. We have Michael Herrera from Southern California Edison, Vaughn Williams III from Southern California Gas Company, Lydia McGee from Metropolitan Water District, Michael Aguilio from Department of General Services, Sarah Chung from Viacom CBS, and Vanessa Sood from AT&T. Before we plunge into the panel discussion, we'd like to start off with a starter question. It's ideally set up to get to know the individuals behind the corporation. So the question is, what intrigued you in pursuing this career area of specialization? In other words, why do you love what you do?
I'll take that question first. I'm Vaughn Williams III with SoCal Gas Supplier Diversity. And what intrigues me the most about this position is the opportunity to advance and uplift others. Small businesses are the heartbeat of America. And in today's times, especially, it's imperative that we do our very best to ensure that those businesses thrive. The economy is such that businesses need every opportunity for help and support that they can have. And for me, being in the position of supplier diversity here at SoCal Gas, I'm exposed to those opportunities. So I'm thrilled and delighted that I have the ability to support businesses, to grow businesses, to advance businesses, but most of all, to see businesses succeed and to economically empower them to a higher source of income for both their families and their communities. So that's really why I'm in what the role that I'm in, because I believe in people, I believe in communities, and I believe in development of communities through economic empowerment.
What intrigued me most about this role is the fact that I'm able to positively impact the small and diverse business community in which we all live and operate in. It always inspires and re energizes me when I have business owners come up to me and thank me for allowing them that one opportunity. Whether the opportunity was a networking, development, or even a multi-million dollar procurement opportunity, it makes everything I do worth it. In alignment with this, a few weeks ago, Southern California Edison published a supplier diversity economic impact report, which touched upon the fact that our supplier diversity and development program had an economic impact of more than $3.3 billion dollars, and it helped sustain more than 19,000 jobs. That, my friends, is what I really love about what I do.
I love what I do. Number one is because I really like helping people. I'm very passionate about helping others and helping them accomplish their goals. And so, how I landed in this position, it goes back past 26 years ago. My background is actually human resources prior to even coming to Metropolitan Water District with the specialty or expertise in recruitment. In recruitment, you're affecting or impacting people's lives when they get jobs. Sometimes at MWD, that's a job. Most of the times at MWD, that's a job until you retire, and you don't see a lot of that these days. But you're making a difference. But my worst nightmare as a recruiter was, what do you do when there's no hiring and there's a hiring freeze, or there are no positions. So around 2009, which was around the time of the real estate meltdown, things were a little slow, and I had already partnered with business outreach for the HR side, with a panelist for job opportunities. So an opportunity presented itself, and with that transferable skill, I just transferred right on over to business outreach. And the beauty is it's the same skill sets. The difference is it's on the HR side, somebody applying for a job. On the contract side, it's business owners looking for contracts, seeking contracts, which is even better. When business owners are awarded contracts, then that's job creation. So that's really what brought me to this field. And I'm very passionate about what I do.
First of all, my name is Michael Aguilio. I am the Business Outreach Liaison from the Office of Small Business and Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise Services for the state of California. As far as pursuing this particular job, if you will, I kind of fell forward onto this, and I'm really lucky that I did. I'm a proud byproduct of a military family, so it allowed me to travel throughout the states and other countries. I witnessed, the social and economic diversity that this great country has, as well as the scenery. Um, and in that doing so, I fell in love with just interacting with people. So, like about what I do is my ability to meet a whole bunch of different folks. I believe that enabling other people to achieve, we both grow from the experience. Uh, they touch my life as well as I touch theirs, and I'm really happy to be a part of trying to help people understand how to do business with state government.
So I started my career in the area of global procurement and sourcing as a purchasing associate at a large fashion retail company. My educational background was actually in international relations and communication, specifically in media studies, and I sort of fell into the world of sourcing and procurement by chance. And it has been about 9+ years now that I've been in this industry. So when I was at my previous company, the global sourcing categories that I oversaw were things like IT, supply chain, e-commerce, marketing, construction, maintenance, etc. And when I transitioned into my new role here at Viacom CBS, I'm now focusing mostly on projects in the post-production field. And it's interesting because I studied media communications in college, and I kind of came full circle in coming back to the media and entertainment industry, which was kind of my passion when I started my college education. So it's very interesting. I kind of ended up in the field that I've always kind of wanted to pursue. What I enjoy most about my sourcing and procurement job is that it kind of allows me to constantly be learning. So, whether I'm meeting with my stakeholders or meeting with vendors and finding out about what they do, I'm constantly in this learning mode. And so I think that's what I enjoy the most about what I do.
Hello, and thank you for the invitation to join in this panel. My name is Vanessa Sood, and I'm a Supplier Diversity Manager at AT&T located in the San Francisco Bay Area. I've been with AT&T for over 16 years, and the last 7 years have been with Supplier Diversity. I began with Singular Wireless after college in the indirect channel. I moved to sales operation and am now in Supplier Diversity. I knew about diversity from a workforce perspective and found Supplier Diversity while searching for a different opportunity at AT&T where I can make an impact. Being a first-generation Latina from South American parents living in the Bay Area has helped me appreciate diversity. I thoroughly enjoy being a part of this program, helping AT&T make meaningful and measurable contributions to the economic growth of diverse companies and communities. I find that working for AT&T in this type of program has been very rewarding, and I'm proud to be working in a program that makes a big impact in diverse business.
Okay, we are going to plunge in with topic number 2, supplier readiness and preparation from a diversity and certification standpoint. This question to the panelists is, can you speak why it is advantageous for suppliers and what kind of initiatives in spend has your company had and adopted in procurement spend, whether it be women-owned, minority-owned, LGBTQ, disabled veteran-owned enterprises?
AT&T has been a longstanding leader in supplier diversity by identifying and promoting diverse businesses for contract opportunities. AT&T's corporate goal is 21.5% of our procurement spend with certified minority, women, service-disabled veteran, LGBTQ+, and disability-owned businesses. For over 50 years, AT&T's supplier diversity program has been at the forefront of supporting diverse business organizations and providing resources for the ecosystem that assists diverse business development and success. To be a part of our program, AT&T has a list of accepted diverse certification agencies located on our website and require each supplier to be certified before conversations begin with internal stakeholders. The AT&T supplier diversity managers are aligned to specific supplier categories, which promotes collaboration with sourcing, business units, and prime suppliers to identify future opportunities for prospective diverse vendors. Remember that certification gives diverse businesses access to supplier diversity professionals. However, there's no guarantee for a contract or award. The AT&T supplier portal is an important element for our team to connect with certified diverse vendors. All profiles are evaluated to determine next steps. Depending on the product and or service product offered, management may seek to schedule a meeting, and it will be incumbent upon you to demonstrate what is compelling about your business and your value proposition. Is the capability you are presenting providing a solution? Is it driving an innovation or disruptor to provide solutions for our needs? It's imperative that when you meet with the buyer or an AT&T representative, that you lead with the value your business brings. Your certification will help you get a meeting with an AT&T supplier diversity manager to hear your solution. However, we will not be the deciding factor for an award.
Getting certified as a diverse-owned company through the supplier clearinghouse is certainly helpful, as number one, it's free marketing for you, as there are many participating utilities involved with this portal, including AT&T, Comcast, San Diego Gas and Electric, SoCal Gas, Southern California Edison, Sprint, T-Mobile, and others. A total of 31 different participating utility companies. When any of these companies are looking for a diverse-owned firm to explore working with, they'll simply go to the supplier clearinghouse and they'll search keywords based on the type of supplier they're looking for. So word of advice is to make sure that the business description you enter into this portal is very detailed and includes the most appropriate keywords for the kind of work you do. Reason number two is corporations like Southern California Edison have supplier diversity spend goals. So when you're exploring opportunities with the corporations that I just mentioned, you can leverage your certification as another way to add value to what you bring to the table, which is alignment to the support of the respective corporation supplier diversity program. In 2019, Southern California Edison spent more than $5.5 billion purchasing various goods and services to be able to execute on our core mission. Spending with our small and diverse business community represented 40% or $2.2 billion of our total corporate purchases. Furthermore, 9 years ago, SCE set an aspirational internal goal of 40% spending with diverse firms. And for the past 7 years, we have exceeded that target. Finally, none of this impressive metrics would have been possible without conducting both developmental and outreach activities in partnership with our external partners. Last year, we invested $1.5 million in various developmental workshops, scholarships, and mentoring programs, all once again in partnership with our 50+ external partners, with ABAOC being one of those fantastic partners.
So Viacom CBS has been very actively engaged in supporting supplier diversity programs. So our Director of Supplier Diversity, Rose Hatcher, she has helped to onboard and certify many diverse suppliers and actually bring a lot of visibility to the overall global sourcing group's efforts in this area. We also include supplier diversity questions as part of our RFP process. And so the questions are usually built into our RFP. That said, the certification is really only advantageous if the vendors pass all the other qualifications. Your company has to be competitively priced, have excellent service, products, and of course, meet all of the needs that are outlined in the RFP. And if all else is equal during the evaluation, then a company with a diversity certification is definitely more likely to be selected.
We don't necessarily have a goal specifically for women-owned, minority-owned. The state of California actually views a business via its size and how many employees it has. By doing so, our certification has some prerequisites that you can find out in our booth. We have a 25% inclusion goal for small businesses and a 3% for DVBEs, or Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise. That equates to last year about over $2 billion going to small businesses and over $336 million going to Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise. So we have a huge goal reaching out to trying to include small businesses within state procurement. We have a small business DVB option where we can award a contract up to $250,000 by just getting 2 quotes of a vendor that's in our database. So if you're not in our database, of course, we'll never call you. We also have the 5% bid preference that you get if you're certified small business. And if you're a DVBE, there may be an additional incentive of another 5% on top of that, depending on how the solicitation is written. But we try to make sure as a state agency that small businesses are ingrained in our operation by looking for you to provide products and services to the state of California. One of the things that the state has is that our prerequisite, and then might think is kind of high, but you have to have fewer than 100 employees for a small business and make less than $15 million. Well, that might be high for many businesses, but we have a subcategory, it's micro business, where you have 25 employees and make less than $5 million, you automatically get an MB certification. What I'm trying to say to you is that with these certifications, you can take advantage of what the state is giving to you, including the 5% bid preference, putting in our database a small business option to enhance your ability to hopefully win contracts.
I'm going to try to make sure I cover all those points. Number one, it's very, 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 very important that you get registered in our database. It's a twofold process. You want to get registered in our database, and if you're a small business or disabled veteran business enterprise, you want to get certified. Our certification process takes about 30 minutes if you have all your information. It's a self-certification. MWD only has two certifications that they accept: SBE, Small Business Enterprise, or DVBE, Disabled Veteran Business Enterprise. Because of Proposition 209, our program is not race or gender based. It's based on the threshold level, the average gross receipts for the past 3 years, and then also if you're a disabled veteran business enterprise. So pretty much the women-owned businesses, disadvantaged business, the various categories, it falls within that SBE. The beauty is, the reason why you want to get in our database when opportunities come up, like an RFP or an RFB or an RFQ or a small acquisition purchase, those purchases that are under $74,999, if you're not in our database, we don't know you exist, and you will not get those notifications. So that's why it's very, very important. Taking it another step, for small businesses or women-owned businesses, disadvantaged businesses, disabled veteran businesses, the playing field is kind of very, very competitive when you're competing against the larger businesses. So we have incentives for our RFBs and our RFPs. There's a percentage off of your scoring or your bid that you put in for an RFB. So that's very, very important. In some cases, it can be as high as 10%. So if you're not certified, registered and certified in our database, you wouldn't be eligible for those incentives. So that's very important. And then also on our construction side, we have mandatory small business requirements or disabled veteran business enterprise requirements. And those could be for our subcontractors or suppliers. And the primes can search our database for 30 days looking for subs or suppliers to meet those mandatory requirements.
So we fall under the General Order 156 through the California Public Utilities Commission, and our DBE actually services MBEs, WMBEs, service disabled veterans, LGBTEs, and 8As. Now, when you think of the opportunities that exist for SoCal Gas, we're at about 41.7% of our total procurement spend with diverse suppliers. And that spend is in every area that you can imagine, ranging from engineering to IT. Um, we have a heavy emphasis on environmental consulting services, janitorial services, fleet management. Most recently, we encountered opportunities, or we were able to provide opportunities in the fleet area, as well as in what we call RMPP, residential meter protection programming, which is a part of construction. It's paving, it's cutting, it's welding, it's installation. Um, those are some of the areas that we've been highlighting this year, in addition to our general engineering services. And I want all the people to know that when you think of procurement with a company like SoCal Gas, don't think of the opportunities as being limited to just those things that are gas related, because there's contingent labor opportunities that come about. There is fleet facilities opportunities that come about. And as the company begins to advance its campaign to create strategies for advancement and engagement of suppliers, we are looking in all categories: finance and accounting, um, records management services, compliance, insurance services, you name it. We have opportunities there. Uh, from what we have garnered over the last 8 months as a result of COVID, the opportunities have become greater, because what we learn is that companies have more bandwidth than we thought. We've seen companies actually take on more and do more as a result of the current environment. So I'm confident in saying that the opportunities that exist are vast and broad.
It's a favorite topic of mine at WinCorp Solutions, and it is ready to win. And it's very competitive, as we talked about in the prior topic discussion. And now we're getting towards the stage of contracts and winning contracts. Can you share some insight regarding whether your company is high quality, value proposition, low bid, competitive bid, combination of all of the above, or something special? Please give tips on how to win, whether it's a contract bid, RFP, or relationship matter, and building that relationship with your company.
It's the state is always looking for the lowest bid. However, we're also looking for the best quality, or the best people to do the job that we're trying to procure. So it's a mix. It's a mixed bag of what's happening. So our solicitations are built to where we'll share you the information on what we're buying and how we're going to buy it, so that you as a supplier can fulfill whatever obligations that you have to us in regards to that solicitation. Now, the tips that I have for you as business owners in trying to help you become successful in winning state contracts is that you have to have, in our case, and in this modern time that we live in, a robust online profile. Your profile really sets a tone for who you are, what you can do, and how we contact you. If you don't do it correctly, or if you don't provide the information that is required, then when we're reaching out to find somebody to do the work for us, you may never come up in our search. So an online profile is really important for you. The other thing that I have to point out is that you have to have the financial capacity to do business with government. State government, in our case, we pay you within 45 days of the undisputed invoice. Many times we try to pay you a lot sooner. However, guidelines say that we can pay you within 45 days, which means that you still have an overhead that you need to cover, if you will. You have your employees' payroll, your building, and whatever suppliers you have. So it's important that you have the financial capacity, either a great line of credit, money in the bank, and then I know that some of you guys have this, a rich relative that you can hopefully rely on a loan. You have to have the ability, and we give you that ability, to look into what the state has bought in the past, So we have a historical database. It's called Skippers, fondly called Skippers. It's the state contract procurement registration system. In that system, we allow you to look into see what we have bought, when we bought it, and how much we bought it for. One of the key features in there is that we give you information that you should be looking for. So when you go to place your bid moving forward, you have an idea of what that price should have been, because we gave it to you what we bought it for. It also gives you in that database who you can market to, because it shows you who bought it, when they bought it, and how much they bought it for. So it's really incumbent upon you to do research for your companies, especially historical research, to make sure that when you place bids, they are pretty much quantitative near where you should be. The other resources that I recommend that you take advantage of is not only the Asian business community, of Orange County, the Commerce, but you should also reach out to the small business developmental centers, the procurement technical assistance centers, SCORE, and then we have for veterans, the veteran business outreach centers. All of these resource partners provide you with information that can help you understand where you're going, how to get there, and it does that at no cost to you. You just got to make an appointment, reach out so that they know that you want help.
So low bid is usually the biggest kind of deciding factor. That said, of course, the quality of service and product matters as well. The reason why low bid would be kind of a bigger deciding factor would be that it's a bit more difficult to evaluate the quality of service and product when we haven't really worked with the supplier yet. That said, I think it's important to showcase that kind of high quality through the way that you participate in the bids. Following even simple directions on the RFP actually makes a big difference and shows us that the potential in the supplier's level of commitment in their service. So, for example, if the question asks you to upload a document in a specific format, it's expected that the supplier would follow that direction. And sometimes, not following the direction on the RFP could unfortunately disqualify vendors in the process. Another tip would be to include relevant case studies or materials in your responses to the RFP that the client that you're responding to can actually relate to. So, for example, if you're a food services vendor and you're participating in an RFP for a media and entertainment company, it would be helpful if you included other related media and entertainment company clients as case studies. And if you don't have any kind of similar clients in your roster, then I would actually try to showcase how your company could specifically bring value to that client in that industry. Some other tips would be to follow up on the status of the decision, but not to the point where you're kind of constantly asking for an update. Usually a polite, follow-up email would suffice. And as far as relationship building goes, I think that even if you don't win the bid, it's important to continue to keep in touch with the sourcing contact and just keep them updated on any new projects or technologies that your company is investing in or working on that could be of interest to your contact.
At AT&T, we are looking for strong suppliers that are unique in their space and impacting change. I would say the first step is creating a relationship and understand how to grow with a company like AT&T. And if AT&T is a company that you want to grow with. We are looking for suppliers that can drill down, understand our challenges, provide viable solutions, and provide innovative resolutions that distinguish your business from generic options.
Those parts that I can really address, I'm going to focus on those. And number one, the low bid. It depends on what you're actually bidding on and the service you're providing. For an RFB, request for bid, they take the lowest bid, definitely. So keep in mind though, when it's the lowest bid, there are also incentives that go toward that. So if you're a small business, disable that. You can get up to 10% off of your bid, 5% on the bid amount, 5% as a regional business, which means if your business has been in our service area headquartered for the past year, and that can go up to a total max of $25,000 off of your bid. So for instance, if you bid $100,000 on something, all things being equal, you have another person that's not a small business. Well, you could get that percentage off of your bid, but your bid would be awarded at the amount that it was bidded. But it would be awarded at that amount, but you would be the winner of that bid because of that incentive that's taken off to make you competitive. I'd also say that relationships are very, 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 very important because sometimes it may take a couple of years for somebody to even be awarded a bid. Sometimes you might not ever get a bid, but by having those relationships, when an opportunity comes up, supplier diversity people remember, business outreach people in our case, we remember, hey, I know so-and-so who can bid on that. Or maybe it's a small acquisition. We make recommendations. They come to us for recommendations. They search our database, but they also come to us as well. So I want to say relationships are very, very important. Making yourself competitive, being competitive, understand what that company, know their know their buying practices. What do they buy? How do they award their contracts? How often does that contract come up for bid? It's just very, very important. Also, it doesn't hurt listening to our board meetings. Our board meetings are open to the public, most of them, or certain portions of it. And you can go in depending on what your area of expertise is. If it's in engineering, or say if it's real estate, if it's legal, they usually announce sometimes, depending on what's on the agenda for the board meetings, when certain contracts are being approved.
So that's an interesting question because it has various answers depending on the supplier that you're working with. In terms of winning a bid, there are several ways to win a bid. The first one, and first and foremost, is to adhere to the guidelines in the RFP and to know the industry and respond with the services that are being requested. The second would be to make sure that your pricing is fair and competitive. So if you know that the industry only dictates for $100 an hour, don't bid $200 an hour because you'll be frowned upon no matter how qualified you are, because that's considered just excessive. The other thing that I would say to winning a bid is making sure that you do have unique relationships. You want to make sure that people know who you are, the quality of your work, past performance, and the likes thereof. When companies are new into the industry, sometimes it's a little harder for them to win a bid because they haven't proven themselves. So I always encourage suppliers to make sure that you develop or cultivate those relationships with not only the internal parties, but with other companies who can speak to the performance and the capabilities of your organization. And then finally, I would say just make sure that when you are competing for work, that you are putting your A game on. A lot of times suppliers say, well, I'm good at it. They should know that. But that's not the case. We only know what you present. And so if you present a C game, we're going to think that the quality of your work is a C game, no matter how good you are. It's best to make a first impression that's a lasting impression and to make sure that your brand is solidified because your brand can really help you in this journey. Oftentimes, I, as the person who's reviewing the RFP, may not know a lot about you, but if you've established your brand in the industry and you list some references for me to check, and those references are able to speak to your credibility and your excellence, then that's a win-win. But if nobody in the industry can say anything productive or positive about you, it doesn't go well in your favor in terms of competing to win an RFP. So those are the tips that I would provide in terms of winning. But most importantly, I would say put your best foot forward and give it all you have. And eventually, the right opportunity will come your way and land in your lap.
One thing to remember is always submit your bid to provide exactly what the bid documents are asking for, while also making sure that your bid is as cost competitive as possible. However, also feel free to submit an alternate bid in addition to your regular bid to maybe propose a higher quality solution. Make sure, however, that if you do plan on submitting this alternate solution, that you're also accompanying it with an explanation as to why your alternate solution should be considered. We love firms who go above and beyond to offer alternative solutions that maybe we haven't thought of, even if the cost may be more money. We ultimately want the best solution to whatever we may be sourcing. There are also several qualities of what I consider a competitive supplier. The first is that they be well versed in electronic sourcing, especially now during this virtual ecosystem that we're all operating in. I've had some suppliers that waited until the last minute to upload their bid into our procurement portal. And unfortunately, there were others that also waited until last minute. And this caused our procurement platform to stress and ultimately slow down, ultimately leading to the supplier not submitting their bid on time. So the lesson here, please submit your bid well ahead of the time as to when it's due. Third, they understand and can communicate their value proposition. I've seen suppliers document in writing the capabilities of their company, but when they're invited in for a post-bid face-to-face or virtual meeting, they aren't too clear in their presentation and they end up not being awarded the contract. Fourth, they're master negotiators. You'll be negotiating with contract agents who negotiate all day long as part of their role. So you definitely want to be able to negotiate back with the ultimate hope of landing a contract that makes sense for your business. I hear all too often of suppliers that are so excited to land a contract with Southern California Edison that they forget that they have the option of negotiating our terms and conditions that are included in our contracts. If our standard payment term doesn't work for the cash flow of your business because maybe you're a smaller one, negotiate that. Don't just accept them as is if it's going to ultimately hurt your business in the long run. We're looking for long-term partners, not short-term ones. Fifth, they've done their homework. For Southern California Edison, I always encourage suppliers to read our supplier diversity annual report, sustainability report, and the white papers that we've published. All of this information will get you well prepared to have a focused and rich conversation with me when we actually get a chance to connect and chat about what solution you're proposing as a solution to the work outlined in these documents I just mentioned. Last, but certainly not least, is leverage your supplier diversity contact. I can provide a wealth of knowledge and insight as you look to explore opportunities at Southern California Edison, in addition to being your ally and advocate.
Thank you for covering the prior four topics so well. As we're winding down, we're getting towards topic 5, and that is your departing wisdom and inspiration to small businesses. Now, if you ask any business owner, any entrepreneur, they're in it for results, the end results. But if you kind of look back and take a bigger picture, a deep breath, it's the journey of entrepreneurship. It's the journey of scaling and building the company. So I'd like to ask you, the corporate panelists, what advice or tips on this whole journey would you like to leave suppliers with?
I give several tips to suppliers. Having been in this industry a long time, I've seen several things. The first tip that I would give to a supplier is know the background of the company that you're presenting to. Know the name of the company and know the types of services that they provide. The second tip that I would leave with any supplier is strive your best or try and attempt to build relationships with whomever you're meeting with. Relationships are lasting. And when you have a positive relationship with an individual, they're able to serve as your advocate within the company and identify opportunities on your behalf for you to compete on. The next thing that I would say is ensure that your confidence in the services that you provide match what's on paper and match what your reputation is in the industry. So if you say you're a world-class provider in staffing, make sure that if I call another utility to find out who you are and what services that you provided, they're able to speak to the value of your organization as well as give positive notes about the branding within your organization. And then I would say to anyone seeking an opportunity or seeking to do matchmaking, when you go into a room, study that room, know the temperature of the people that you're talking to. And sometimes you may have to offer an icebreaker. You may have to be the one to go into the room and exude more than just confidence, but some positive energy to give the panelists or give the person that you're matchmaking with a sense of comfort with who you are. A lot of times, we as advisors and procurement professionals and supplier diversity professionals, we run into a lot of suppliers, and sometimes we don't get a good vibe from the suppliers. So it's an automatic feeling of not so sure if I want to work with this person. You have to be the one to make us comfortable with wanting to work with you. And how do you do that? Positive reinforcement, strength in your delivery, quality service, detailed explanation of the product you provide, explaining to us how it would benefit our organization, and lead with your core values. When you do those things, you provide us with a sense of comfort that you not only know what you're doing, but you give us a sense that you bring value to our organization. Then you have a good conversation and you can go from there. So I would leave those tips and I would encourage constant follow up. It's some people think that it's a bad thing to follow up. I say it's the best thing you can do because we run into hundreds of people and we might only hear from 10 or 15% of them. So I would say be that 10 or 15% and make sure that your follow-up game is as strong as your presentation game.
I'd suggest to suppliers that they know what they do well and what they don't. Don't try to pitch your good or service as the solution for every problem. Focus instead on what you know you do well and what you're very experienced with. Once you've established a relationship and trust with the corporation, then you can introduce and explore other opportunities where maybe you don't have as much experience in. Shine bright from the get go, and other doors will open for you in the future. As mentioned already, always do your homework for whatever corporation you'll be connecting with. Also, practice your 60-second elevator pitch, as you'll find yourself in situations where you literally have a very short period of time with a specific corporate representative. So try to make sure you convey your core competencies within a short time frame. Third, always dress appropriately, as your meetings and matchmaking are usually your first impression with corporate representatives. So you definitely want to make a good first impression. Lastly, arrive on time, as we'll be connecting with other suppliers, and it's always good to be courteous to all involved. So manage your time wisely.
Here's some of the tips that I would recommend. I gave you some earlier about making sure you utilize the free services that government gives to you. The other thing that I would recommend for you to be successful is that you have to have a capability statement that you can share. When you're in matchmaking, you're talking about who you are, what you do. It's nice that you can share that information on a one-page document that has a lot of your capabilities. It's pretty much your business resume. If you don't know that what that is, or you've never put one together, we can help you with the contacts as we put there forth. The SBDCs, the PTACs, they all have the capability of sitting down with you and creating one. The other thing is that you have to continue to market your business. In this day and age, it's a different platform. You're looking at what? Google, LinkedIn, all these virtual platforms. It used to be back in the day where you'd come to an event, we'd shake hands, we'll discuss things, you meet one on one. Well, we're still doing one on one meetings, but it's virtual. So, my recommendation is that you continue to look for events, which we just did recently on a virtual event where we had booth space. You can come in and talk to us. As a matter of fact, you're attending one right now. So please visit our booth. In our booth, we have a video presentation by our chief, which explains what we do. She's very knowledgeable, and it's really short. It's only 2 minutes long. It recaps many of what we talked about just now. As I said earlier, we really, really want you to be successful. One of the things that we have too is that in our operations, we have advocates in every state departments. Their job is to answer questions that you may have in regards to what the state buys in their departments, who the buyers are, how to interact with their departments. It's all available to you on our website. And by going to our booth, you'll find all that information. I really hope all of you find success. And if anything that I've shared with you today has helped you do that, whether you say, well, state is where I want to go, or state, I want to wait, maybe a little later, or apt to help or provide. But if I've helped you in any kind of way today, what I ask you to do for me moving forward is to pay a random act of kindness for somebody else. By all of us working together, we can make our lives better and this great state stay golden.
For me, I think relationships are so important. Relationships. And, don't give up, persevere. Sometimes it may take years. Sometimes things can, I'm not going to say happen overnight. I've seen some things happen pretty fast sometimes, like PPEs, where they were looking to us, hey, give us a list. Do you have anybody? We had a team that we still refer people to, but also preparation, relationships and preparation. You can have all the relationships in the world, but if you're not prepared, it really doesn't help you much. Take advantage of organizations like the ABA at Orange County, the different professional organizations, even those organizations that are paid for by tax dollars. Take advantage of that so you can grow and increase your capacity and be better at what you do, and so you can get tips. There is so many resources out there, I think, that are available. And I think the tip, let me see, you said ending the journey, the tip that I would give. I think this example would be the best. I was at an event, of course, this is when it was face-to-face event. This guy came up to the table and he said, he named mostly all the buyers in certain areas within our organization. He said, and you handle this, and John Arena handles that, and Ken Ashford handles that. And then he told me where he fit within the organization. He said, this is who I need to meet with. Do you think I was impressed? I was very impressed. And when he called me, I made sure that I connected him with that person. But of course, I checked to make sure he was in our database, and what he said, he did. But it was very impressive how he did his homework, and that he was a match, and he knew where he fit. Because I like to say in closing, in matchmaking, the appointments, I need you to help me help you, because I don't know it all, but if you can tell me exactly where you fit, because that's what I'll probably ask you if you don't, where would be the best fit within our organization? And then sometimes it's not always a good fit. So I think that's the best tip. Help me to help you. And that comes with preparation.
Patience and persistence. Agreements do not necessarily happen overnight. Understand that each company has its own process, and that one company will be different from another when working with suppliers. For example, with AT&T, we ask that all interested suppliers first register their business in our prospective database at www.attsuppliers.com. We have a process in place where all registrations are reviewed and responded to accordingly. I manage the prospective supplier intake process and review all registrations. When appropriate, I forward the registration to the supplier diversity manager in that commodity for further vetting, or I will respond directly. We also have a general inbox where suppliers can inquire about our program and their registration. If the contact is made with a supplier diversity manager, reaching out yearly or twice a year to provide substantive interim updates is reasonable. You stay positive and professional and do not send or make excessive requests to the buyer.
So for matchmaking tips, a big one is to just make sure that the buyer clearly knows what your company does or sells. Try to leave out a lot of jargon, acronyms, or technical terms that they might not understand. And the matchmaking is a short session. So, to determine if the company has need for your products or services. Exchange contact information and follow up with a more detailed presentation later. If you try to do kind of a full-blown pitch at the matchmaking session, usually it just kind of flies over the buyer's head, and it's really difficult for the buyer to kind of just remember everything. So I would say, keep it short, simple, and memorable.
In summing up today's corporate diversity and procurement panel, we hope we've achieved a few things for you. One is walking away from the panel perhaps a little bit more inspired than when you came in. Second, you've gained some insight from the business panelists, and it's going to ready you for today at matchmaking if you're participating, and for tomorrow in your daily endeavors. Third, we hope you're inspired to do great things and continue to scale and build your company. Personally, I know in my 10th year of WinCorp Solutions, my company, I know we've done a lot of things to tweak and adjust it through the years, to add resources, shed resources, make adjustments to optimize it, and continue to strive to have a sustainable competitive advantage. I know personally how hard and challenging it can be, but I also know the journey is so rewarding. So we hope you had a great journey today with us, and we're glad you came along with us. A sincere thank you to all the corporate panelists members today. So for Michael Herrera, Vaughn Williams III, Lydia McGee, Michael Aguilio, Sarah Chung, and Vanessa Sood, I'm Tom Nguyen. Thank you very much for joining us.